What's up? This is EJ Stewart. All you are your words. If there's anything you learned about me, I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. Well, how the turntables have. Rest in peace to all my ops. This crap is crap.
Let's go!
Let's go is right. What's up? This is EJ Stewart. You are watching 40 Days and Counting, where I do 2 live stream shows per week. One Tuesday, 6 p.m., one Friday, 8 a.m. Though this week will be different. I will not have a show on Friday. I will have my honeymoon on Friday, so I'm very excited about that. But unfortunately, that will mean for you guys who love this show, won't be a 40 Days and Counting. So I try to give you the best show I possibly can this evening. And this is going to be a fun show because we got a lot to talk about. We're going to continue to talk about the King. LeBron James, obviously, of course, made his decision. We had our emergency episode of 40 Days and Counting, which was quite thrilling, to be honest, to be here and working on other stuff and have LeBron James make that announcement that he was going to Philadelphia 76ers, jumping right back up here into this chair, in front of this desk, in front of this camera, and going live, talking about the move with the King going to Philly. And we're going to have more details on that because we say he's going to Philly, but is he really? He will be playing for the Sixers. That's already decided. But where will he be staying? It sounds like it might not be in Philadelphia, and it's something that we heard some bits and pieces of when we did our show on Friday. More details on that in a little bit. The other big fallout from this LeBron James decision was what did not happen for the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors were one of the teams that were in the mix trying to get LeBron James. They're as I think Steve Kerr referred to them as, a fading dynasty. And this offseason has been pretty much a disaster. Let's call it what it is, right? I mean, they did not get Giannis. They did not get LeBron. They got Draymond Green back. They signed him to a 1-year, $27 million deal. So, okay, you got Draymond back, and Steve Kerr is going to remain the head coach. Not all really has changed from what was a very dire situation at the end of the year. You still have 2 massive injuries with Jimmy Butler coming back from the ACL and the terrible injury to Moses Moody with the torn patella tendon. So where are the Golden State Warriors at this point? And should Stephen Curry maybe be thinking about life after the Warriors? And I'm not talking about retirement. We're going to talk about that on this show as well. We're going to stay in the Bay Area because it's kind of a weird story going on with Kyle Shanahan. I say weird only in the sense that, you know, what happened to him was unfortunate. He had a car accident in which he suffered some pretty severe injuries, not ones that are life-threatening and not ones that I think are maybe even life-altering, it appears, though obviously concussions are very serious. He did suffer a concussion in this car crash, but he spoke to reporters just maybe an hour ago, a couple of hours ago, for 45 minutes detailing what happened with this crash and how he actually was indeed at fault. Now, the police have said there's been no foul play, no drugs, alcohol, or anything like that, but details on this crash were very difficult to get, and it seemed like the details we were getting didn't seem to be telling the entire story. So Kyle Shanahan was setting the record straight today. We'll get the latest on what he said today at 49ers camp, a place where he is not currently residing as a head coach. They have an assistant coach right now who is taking on head coaching duties because Kyle Shanahan is still recovering from his injury. So more on that. Big story out of college football where the general manager for North Carolina, Michael Lombardi, has been placed on administrative leave. Why, we don't know, but it is once again another black mark for what has been an utterly disastrous situation with Bill Belichick as the head coach of North Carolina Tar Heel football. This was a man who was essentially, in Michael Lombardi, his right-hand man, and in many ways his mouthpiece, and in many ways his pitbull. I mean, this was the guy that was getting after people who talked badly about North Carolina. This was somebody that was not shy about speaking about what they were going to establish at North Carolina. In many ways, again, he was Bill Belichick's ride or die in what has been a sinking ship over at Carolina, and things only seem to be getting worse even though the season hasn't started yet. Their general manager is right now placed on administrative leave. We'll have more on that. And finally, also, we're going to get into some Spider-Man stuff. Spider-Man Brand New Day comes out this week. Premiere was last night. All I can say right now is I'm hearing this movie is the one. That's just what I'm seeing from the majority of the reviews, the majority of the people speaking about it, people that I respect in terms of the critic game that talk about superhero movies. They are saying this movie is the one. They're saying this movie might be the best Spider-Man movie ever made, and I can't wait. I can't wait. So I'll talk about it. I'm lucky enough to be, while it's unfortunate, I'm giving Jeff Bezos a bunch of money. I am one of those folks that, because I'm an Amazon subscriber, I took advantage of trying to get the advanced screening. So I did get advanced screening tickets. So I'm seeing the movie tomorrow, only one day ahead of everybody else, but I will get to see it tomorrow. I will probably post something somewhere. What it will be, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's going to be like a full podcast. I don't know if it's going to be... it might be kind of what I did with Superman. It would be kind of like a reaction video, maybe right outside the theater once I'm walking home, watching the movie. So you'll probably get something from me late tomorrow night talking about what I saw from the film. Obviously, because I won't be around this weekend for... not only obviously 40 Days and Counting for Friday, so there won't be any recap from me there. I'm also, again, away this weekend, so I don't know how we're going to handle New Generation Hero Talk aspect of it. For those who are fans of our Heroes podcast I do with my brother Shamari and Kendall Stewart, maybe they'll handle the review, and maybe I'll come back the following week. We'll figure something out. But either way, this movie apparently is it. The reviews are very, very, very well received right now in terms of how they're reacting to Spider-Man Brand New Day. So again, stacked slate. No show Friday, so I gotta make sure I bring it today on Tuesday. Listen, I did 3 shows last week, so I guess in some ways it ends up evening out. So this is gonna be a lot of fun. 40 Days and Counting, streaming live multiple spots, including streaming live, of course, on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, first of all, thanks for watching. Thanks for checking us out. Always appreciate you. Do me a favor if you can. If you can go into that like button up there, if you can hit that like button, that helps the channel a ton. Also, if you can leave a comment in the comment section, even just saying, yo, what's up, EJ? Yo, love the show. Yo, whatever you want to say. Jump in the comment section. You want to have a comment on any of the stories we're talking about today. You want to have a comment on something maybe we're not talking about today that you want to bring to my attention or bring to the show. It's an interactive gig we have here. So anything you want to talk about, you can bring to the table. But make sure if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button to New Generation Media's YouTube channel, and make sure, of course, again, if you want to get into the chat, get into the comment section. I want to hear from you as you watch this lovely program. Also streaming live today on X. Again, X is like a who knows when, why it will kick me off. So far, it has not, knock on wood. So right now, I'm live on X. Shout out to the folks that are on X. Everybody saying, where you been? Why we only keep getting these 2-minute shows? Again, I promise it's not me. Promise nothing I'm doing. I've tried everything I could, including trying to reach out to X to figure out why my shows kept getting cut short. I've tried no intro, some intro, different intro. I went back to using the intro I included with just my voice, and this one went okay today. Other days it doesn't let me go, but nonetheless, we're on X today. So awesome. Awesome. Shout out to the folks watching on X. Of course, greatly appreciate you guys. Thank you for rocking with me today. Of course, streaming live as well on Instagram. Hit the button today. So Instagram live. We are live. So shout out to the folks checking me out on Instagram. Greatly appreciate y'all as well. Anybody jumping yet on Instagram? No one on Instagram yet, but for those who will jump in on Instagram, greatly appreciate you. And streaming live today on Buzzer as well. If you have not already, make sure you sign up for Buzzer. Just head over to bzzr.com or sign up for the Buzzer mobile app. And make sure you follow your boy, EJ205 Prep. Also, make sure you follow New Generation Media on Buzzer. Let's get the ball rolling. Let's talk about the King. So, LeBron is expected to explore life living outside of Philadelphia, outside of Pennsylvania, not in New Jersey. He's apparently, according to folks, expected to explore possibly living this upcoming season while he plays with the 76ers in New York City. So, for those who may not be familiar with how close or how far Philly is from New York, I'm actually kind of a decent person to actually talk about this. I'm someone who commuted from Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania to New York City every day for about a year or so. I did it, then like part-time for like 2 or 3 years when I was with Andrea and when I met my wife who lives in New York. But when I was single, I was living in Lehigh Valley and was commuting to New York. So the time difference is about the same. So if you're traveling from Philadelphia to New York or vice versa, If there's no traffic, it's New Jersey, it's New York, it's Philadelphia. I don't know how many days you're going to have no traffic. But if it's no traffic, you could probably get from Manhattan to Philadelphia somewhere between an hour and 45 minutes to like 2 hours on a bad day. Like on a bad day where maybe it's not like clear. If there's a lot of traffic, it could take you more than 2 hours, 2.5 hours. But it's somewhere around there. Somewhere around, on even the worst day, probably somewhere between an hour and a half and 2.5 hours to get from New York to Philadelphia every day. If you Now, this is something I don't have any familiarity with. I have familiarity with being on transportation to being taken to New York City. No familiarity on what it takes in terms of if you are trying to fly, which apparently is something LeBron is also considering. He is reportedly looking into maybe helicopter options. That he could take a helicopter every day, or at least every day he has practice, every day he has a game, and that could be the way he travels from New York to Philadelphia. So I want you to listen to Brian Windhorst because he mentioned this in talking about just how kind of crazy this whole situation is with LeBron's signing with the Sixers, which now, by the way, is official.
This is a one-off moment in the history of the league. We've never seen a player ever say the following things. I don't care about money. I don't care about my family. He doesn't even really that much apparently care about the city because he doesn't seem like he's going to live in Philadelphia full time. Seems like he's going to live at least part time in New York. So this is I don't even know how to frame it because it's really truly unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way he framed that, and before I cut off the beginning of it, but he wanted to emphasize that Windhorst saying he wasn't trying to hate on LeBron. He's astounded by everything working out there. But the little part where he's like, he apparently doesn't care much about the city. Windhorst may not think it sounds like shade, but it is. I mean, it is. Even if LeBron doesn't care about the city, or that's not something that he's interested in, if that is how he feels, that's definitely shade to the city. If he's like, oh, I'll just live in New York, and I don't really care about Philadelphia. So here's what I'll say, and I think I wanted to also point out this report, by the way, from Scoop B Robinson. Shout out to him, Scoop B. Obviously doing his thing with his independent platforms and all the work he's done for years covering the NBA and other sports. He reported this: amid widespread reports surrounding complex daily commute arrangements, sources familiar with LeBron James' thinking emphasize that maintaining geographical flexibility is a top priority as he transitions to the East Coast. The proximity between Philadelphia and New York was a significant underlying attraction in choosing the 76ers, offering a lifestyle balance and business convenience similar to what his family experienced in Los Angeles. Sources familiar with James' perspective note that having the ability to leverage real estate in Philadelphia while keeping options open in New York City gives James the ultimate level of optionality at this stage of his life and career. While media chatter has speculated about helicopter travel or living in Manhattan full time, sources maintain there's no rigid housing decision has been finalized. Instead, those close to James' thinking stress that the 20 years of legendary production and substantial personal resources, James views having every living arrangement on the table as a luxury he has earned. I mean, it's good to be king, right? I mean, there's no doubt about that. It's very good to be king, and Scooby Robinson, whoever feels very clutch sports slant there. Not to diss Scooby, but that's what they're telling him. But that wording and that this is the life that he has provided himself, so he can do that. But I said this before. I wanted to lead with this today because I feel similarly. I feel like this is a mistake. Now, it's a mistake if you care about ingratiating yourself in Philadelphia, ingratiating yourself with Sixers fans, and not giving them a layup for something for them to bat you over the head with. Like, to me, when it comes to Philadelphia, it is a tough sports town. They are by nature antagonistic, pessimistic, and hostile. That is who they are, and they wear it like a badge of honor. This is not something that they would probably say screw you for me for saying that just because they're Philadelphians, but they would say that's how they would describe themselves. Now, they're incredibly loyal, they're incredibly diehard. They ride or die for anything Sixers, anything Eagles, but anything Philadelphia. So they're also, I think, passionate fans who, if you're lucky to have them in your corner, if you do, because they're crazy, just like New Yorkers are, but in a different way. So if I'm advising LeBron, if I was, which he would never listen to anything I have to say, but if I was, as someone who has lived in Philadelphia, as someone who has worked in the Philadelphia sports market or interned there, but still, I was there, and who's lived in Pennsylvania for many years. This is a bad look. This is a bad look, and it's a bad look that can only be wiped away by dominance on the basketball court and an NBA championship. Like, to me, again, I don't think this is the kind of city you want to give them ammunition to. This is not the kind of city, to me, that I would want to unnecessarily antagonize for the nature of comfortable living. Like, I know maybe it sounds silly, and like, listen, he has 4 titles, he has all those MVPs, he's one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time. Again, he may not care about any of these things, and it sounds like really he doesn't, but I'm just speaking about if your number one goal was to make sure this Philadelphia Sixers move went smoothly. This feels like something that is opposite of that. This feels like something that is against that. It feels like something that you now are going to have to overcome potentially if other issues come about, if the play on the court isn't as good as it's going to be. There's an argument to be made that maybe if the Sixers stink and he's living in the city, it won't matter anyway. But I think that it was not an accident that when Bryce Harper, after he dragged the Philadelphia Phillies through a crazy long free agency negotiation where it seemed like he was almost begging for any other big market team to give him money. It's like it was not an accident that as soon as that was over and he signed with the Phillies, whether he settled or whether that's wherever he wanted to go, wherever the story was, once he decided, okay, I'm going to Philly, that guy became Mr. Philadelphia. That guy's at every Eagles game. That guy's rocking Philly gear all the time. You would think he's from Philadelphia the way he acts and talks. He became Mr. Philly because he knew that was best for business. He knew that was best for his livelihood. He knew that was best for the orbit he was entering. Because the last thing Philly wants to ever feel is second place. The last thing the city of Philadelphia ever wants to feel is slighted. They don't, like, they embrace being the underdog, but they don't want you telling them that you're the underdog. That's what rubs them the wrong way. They're a city that has a chip on their shoulder. And I think the athletes that have gone there and really embraced the city have been smart about understanding that. Whether it was Charles Barkley, whether it was Allen Iverson, again, whether it was Bryce Harper. It's a very delicate thing. And LeBron, we already know how that LA, I talked about it for a long time a couple of weeks ago when I talked about the LeBron LA dynamic and how weird it was and how it was weird that nobody reported it. And listen, people in LA or Laker fans will tell you, oh yeah, no, like we knew and like, yeah, we talked about it. But again, it was not something that really was widely discussed, that there wasn't this full love affair and embrace with the king when there really was no real reason for there not to be. And they got away with that. And I say they, I mean like LeBron and his team in Clutch Sports. Like, he kind of was able to just move on, and I don't think really people it never really became a national story, and it never really became even a talking point for people to really talk about outside of Laker fans and people on the internet. This is not going to be Philadelphia. I'm telling you right now, the Clutch Sports ish that they got away with in LA is not going to cut into Philadelphia. It's a smaller city, it's an insular city, and it's one that is almost waiting for you to give them some sign of disrespect so they can show you, they can cut you down in half and tell you who you really are or where you stack in the city. They embrace that kind of like animosity, that kind of confrontation. So if LeBron and his team feels like they can walk all over the city of Philadelphia, like, they're very happy for him now. Again, the governor named the day he signed with the Sixers or agreed with the Sixers LeBron James Day, and Sixer fans overall are very happy, as they should be. I'm just telling you right now, knowing Philadelphians, this is something that's not going to sit well with some. And the minute they go on a 3-game losing streak, The minute he has a 5 for 16, the minute things don't look great on the court, I guarantee you what's going to come up is, well, this guy never really wanted to be here. This guy came here only so he can pal around with his elite, his coastal elite friends in New York City. I'm telling you, that's what's going to happen. It's going to happen. Now, the one way he can combat that, win. Because in Philadelphia, that's what they care about. It's like, Adrian telling Rocky, win. Win. And Mickey's like, well, what are we waiting for? It's my friend Andrew Perlow's favorite moment in Rocky 2. Like, to me, like that's how he can overcome this. Like, unlike with the Lakers, where they have 1 million championships, one bubble title was not going to overshadow all of the other things that pissed off Laker fans. In Philly, where they don't see a lot of championships, they're seeing them now recently because of what the Eagles have done, and the Phillies got one in, what was it, 08? Like, they gotten a few recently, but this is not a city that sees a lot of championships. You win a championship, you are Teflon, period. So, if they win a title, if he takes the Sixers on some crazy magical run, maybe to the finals, okay, maybe they lose to Wemby or lose to OKC, but there may be no shame in how they lost. Yeah, he'll be seen as someone that was a hero. Anything less than that, stuff like this, and other things that may come about just by the LeBron orbit bringing itself to Philadelphia, a place that is a no-nonsense city, it is gonna be a problem. I guarantee you. I'm very fascinated by this dynamic. LeBron, again, expected to live in New York City. Philadelphians hate New York. And the fact that this was something that he's in love with this city so much. Once again, with the reporting that also that he and his team apparently reached out to the Knicks and they said, no, thank you. It's just this, I'm telling you, for a city that always has felt like it's been kind of in New York's shadow a little bit and feeling like they've been treated as second fiddle. It's not a good idea, I think, to sign there and then treat the city like second fiddle. Like I don't want to live here. And like I said on Friday, I don't really know why. Like, I don't know. Like, there's very nice areas in the Philadelphia suburbs. I'm sure LeBron James, he could buy a sick-ass house. Hell, he could live, I mean, it's a little weird to maybe live on the beach in the winter, but he can get a beach house in Jersey. Like, he could do a lot of fun stuff. I don't think it's like this terrible place to live where I would need to live in New York City. Like, I don't know. To me, I know it's a helicopter, you're saying, and I'm already scared of helicopters, period. But then also I'm doubly scared what happened with Kobe. But, like, you say, oh, well, you can go to helicopters, 40 minutes. I'm like, I don't know. I get the impression there's still probably a lot of logistics that go into, like, riding in helicopters all the time that I can't imagine is convenient. Yes, it may be, in terms of the time that it takes for you to actually be in the air, may be quick. But to be doing that simply to go to practice or to go to a game sounds like a lot. Again, I know Kobe did it. He was living in Orange County and was helicoptering in Laker games. And he was the Mamba, so it clearly didn't bother him. But this is a 41-year-old guy who speaks a ton about how much preparation it takes to get his body right, to get his mind right. I'm adding helicopter flight and potentially 2-hour drives to my games or to my practices every time I step foot in the city of Philadelphia. I don't know. That seems like a lot to me. And it seems unnecessary. And it also seems like you're giving ammunition to Sixer fans to turn on you as soon as you don't play well. Which may not happen. Maybe you'll play well. Maybe there'll be no issues. But again, it's ammunition I would not want to have even put on the table. So the fact that it's getting out so much that this is a thing, this should be something they probably should have kept on the hush hush. I think, to me, it would make sense if he wanted to have a place in New York, but also, like, live in Philadelphia. I would say he could live. There's times where you have 2 or 3 days between games. And, like, okay, he wants to go to his New York pad in those days where there's no games. Yeah, I mean, that would make sense to me. But, and again, right now, apparently, like, getting according to Scoop B, it's kind of unclear what's going to happen. But the fact that it's getting put out there immediately that he can live in New York and this is why he's coming, it's like, I would hope you want to come to Sixers because you want to win a championship. You want to play basketball. Like, you put in your statement, like, I want to grind, I want to compete, I want to suffer, or not, sacrifice was the word, sorry. I want to sacrifice, I want to grind, I want to compete, and I want to go after a championship. That's what you put in your statement. And everything else that's come since has been about living in New York City in helicopters. It's not how I wouldn't feel great about that aspect of it. I would feel great about LeBron joining my team if I was a Sixer fan. I wouldn't feel great about that specific aspect of what's been so much of the attention in the last few days since his signing. With LeBron signing comes fallout, which happens every time this happens, where other teams are trying to figure out where to pick up the pieces. There usually seems to be one team that is particularly in a rough spot. Obviously, if you go to 2010, the Cavs and the Knicks were really like the big losers. Cavs the biggest losers, of course, in 2010. And then when it was 2015, obviously the Heat losing him, that they were the big loser there. And 2020, the Cavs again, but maybe not as bad. And then now we go back to here, where I think the big loser that everyone's been circling, the Heat a little bit, but they got Giannis. It's not too bad. I know a lot of those fans are upset. A lot of them want to wring that the neck of whoever was that digital person who put up that LeBron press conference. That's never going to happen. But the other big loser, I think the majority loser in all this has been the Golden State Warriors, who now enter basically the end of the offseason. Like, nothing is going to happen, really. I mean, there's time. You can, in theory, make trades and sign whatever guys you want to sign who are still left on the scrap heap. But the offseason is essentially over, and it doesn't really feel like they accomplished much. They still have the same situation they came into this thing with. Two of their top wing players, one being a future Hall of Famer in Jimmy Butler, who is coming from a torn ACL. The other in Moses Moody, who's coming from a torn patella tendon at the end of the season, which makes me feel like, as someone who had that injury, I don't think you're seeing Moses Moody play this year. So, two significant knee injuries you're trying to overcome. No real off-season move that, like, would move the needle in any significant way for this team to make you feel different about their outlook. And another year where you're kind of wondering if this is going to be Steph Curry talents being wasted on a team that has no business at all thinking of themselves as contenders. At the end of the day, the Warriors last year missed the playoffs after losing the second playing game to the what's it called? Team I can't remember the name. The Suns, of course. Losing to the Suns. And makes you wonder, what now? Because the Warriors are entering a Western Conference that isn't nearly as stacked as it was last year. And to be honest, I think last year the West, as we saw in the finals, was actually kind of overrated. But they've lost some key players. Randall's gone. LeBron's gone. Nas Reed is gone. There are some teams that have taken some hits that I think makes the West, outside of those top two teams, feels like it's two teams, Thunder, Spurs, and then everybody else. So the Warriors, I guess in theory, would know it's everybody else's team, but I don't know if they stack up as a legit playoff team at all. They didn't make playoffs last year. And Steph Curry was asked about kind of his thoughts on what happened with LeBron deciding to head to Philly as opposed to go to Golden State, and he said he's got to turn the page. He was speaking at Moses Moody's camp and said, quote, "That's why you don't envision anything until it happens. There's a lot of moving parts." He also, in acknowledging LeBron's decision to go elsewhere, given the question about the Warriors' future, is one that they're all going to have to deal with now. He said the through line, which is hard on anybody in this situation, especially with us keeping this thing together, is knowing when Jimmy got hurt and Moses got hurt, the whole calculus of everything changes. How do you get through their absence and still stay at a certain level? And then how does that go into this year? It's the same deal. So I'm a realist on that. So finally, and this was all reporting from Marcus Thompson II of The Athletic, shout out to him, he put this little addendum there. He said, quote, "Curry wants to win. He wants the best the Warriors can assemble around him. He wants a real chance for a deep playoff run. The longer it takes for him to sign a contract extension, the more you can bet Curry's using potential free agency as a tool to keep the Warriors pushing forward toward that end." Now, you would think, given he's Stephen Curry, he is the greatest Warrior of all time by far. He is the most important figure the organization has had come through his parts, and he's one of the most iconic Bay Area athletes ever, that trying to maximize Steph Curry's still not his prime, but still like all-star level, you would think would be something that they would want to do, not just from a business standpoint, but also an actual like standpoint of winning. Because like the team, in theory, Steph Curry is the kind of player that you could absolutely still win games with him because of how dynamic he is. But according to Tim Kawakami, who of course is a longtime Bay Area reporter, Joe Lacob's trying to thread and he's the owner of the Warriors. He's trying to thread a very, very, very tight needle. He said on the TK show, quote, "What Lacob wants to do, and this might get Warriors fans mad, he wants to build the next team after Steph Curry." I don't know how possible that is, but Lacob has a keen interest in this organization going to show what it can do with Steph Curry and then after Steph Curry. I don't think it's going to be as good myself, but that's what he wants to do, was the quote from Kawakami on the TK show, which is his show. I'll be honest, if I'm Steph Curry, and I've said this now for at least a year, I said this when I was on Maggie and Perloff, I would be having serious conversations about whether or not it's time for me to move on from the Golden State Warriors. And I think anybody who is romanticizing, or anybody who's hell-bent on this idea that it's important for Stephen Curry to play every game of his career with the Warriors, he has to end his career with the Warriors, I feel like you're romanticizing an aspect of sports that, one, is kind of long gone, and two, I think really with someone who has stayed this long with one team really doesn't hold that much weight. It's one thing if Steph Curry, was 33, 34 years old and the Warriors are so good and he has, in theory, another 6 years left and he's jumping ship. To me, that's one thing where you say, maybe stick it out. Like, it's been great to see you in the Warrior uniform. Let's see what you can do, and let's see if the team can build a team around you. And I'm glad he did, because they ended up winning a championship. It's another thing when you have a team that is clearly at a dead end. The Warriors are at a complete, utter dead end. There is no scenario where this version of the Warriors turns themselves into a championship contender. And it doesn't sound like, according to Tim Kawakami, that they're even going to try. Like, the LeBron James thing seemed like a last-ditch effort. Basically, like, well, listen, he's dirt cheap. He's always wanted to play with Steph Curry, and he's going to bring a lot of money, so why wouldn't we consider it? But we saw some reporting earlier this week as well that apparently the Warriors were not interested in Jalen Brown and were offered the opportunity to trade 4 first-round picks for Jalen Brown, and they said no. Jalen Brown's a guy that if he joins the Golden State Warriors next season, I'm assuming it would have been Jimmy Butler for Jalen Brown and 4 first-round picks. I don't know. Maybe they throw Popzinski or something in there. I don't know how they do to figure out the money. The money should be pretty close, so it wouldn't be too hard a deal to make happen. I mean, it feels like Curry and Jalen Brown as a duo in the West. I don't think they're winning the title, but all right, at least I'm interested. Steph Curry, for the rest of his prime, is not going to be wasted on a team that has absolutely no chance. It's a team that at least be competitive. This Warrior team isn't competitive. This Warrior team isn't any good. And listen, I've said, I'm not someone who really stands players. And I don't think I stand any players. But I have players who I enjoy watching, players who have been my favorite players. And Steph Curry, outside of Andy Nick, has been my favorite player in the NBA. I don't know. Jeez. Well, I liked him since he was in college. So, I mean, you're going a long ways back now. 15 years probably, right? So I've always had love Steph Curry, and I don't have maybe the same attachment to the Warrior organization. I have attachment to Steph Curry because I think he's a great athlete, and I've just admired him and how he's played the game. But so it gives me a different perspective. But I'm like, I don't want to see a guy who could average 26, 27 points a game still light up any great team on any given night. Remember, last year, back-to-back games against the Spurs, puts up 2 40-plus burgers on them. Against Wembanyama and those hounds that we saw during the NBA playoffs that had an answer for everybody except Jalen Brunson. And even with Jalen Brunson, they had an answer for him the first couple of games. Like, Stephen Curry still is like that. And we're really going to say that we should accept that the end of his career should end like Kobe's did on like nothing Laker teams that had no chance and were a joke and were unwatchable. I don't want to see that. Like, Steph Curry can still play. Steph Curry hasn't had any debilitating serious injuries like Kobe did. He can still contribute to a team trying to win a championship. Absolutely. Just like LeBron can. And I don't think this is ring chasing at this point. Like, Stephen Curry has 4 championships. If any place he goes, it's him just adding to his legacy. Like, I don't think that, oh, this is a guy who's ring. He stayed on one team his entire career. Like, it's not like LeBron or Kevin Durant who's bouncing from team to team to team to team to team, just trying to find the best opportunity. This is a guy who has stayed loyal, who has kept his whole existence, obviously, with the Golden State Warriors his entire career. I don't understand this thing that he can't move on to another team at the end of his career when the Warriors are clearly unserious. This is an unserious organization, not trading for Jaylen Brown. I don't know how the hell you expect to compete with the team you got right now. And then Joe Lacob is looking eyes forward to what life is like after Steph Curry when the guy is already still an all-star player, still a top minimum 15 player in the NBA. Minimum top 15. And that's, I think, like, generous. I think he's top 10. And, like, I don't care how old he is. Look at his production. Again, look at the games he had last year. I just think this stinks, man. Like, for a guy who has been as great as Stephen Curry has been, his career shouldn't be ending like this. It didn't have to. It doesn't have to. And I'm intrigued by the idea that, Mark Thompson said that he's kind of holding over this extension that they likely do want to sign him to, because they do want to end his career at the Warriors. But he's hanging over their head like a little bit of a carrot to be like, listen, guys, what are you doing? You got to do something. You got to bring some kind of talent in here if you're expecting me to remain loyal to this squad. Otherwise, maybe I should look elsewhere, And again, he's done everything for the Warrior organization. At this point, I would love to see Steph Curry actually pursue his own personal legacy. Like, he has not done that. He's just been loyal to whatever the Warriors were doing. If it meant getting KD, cool. If it meant KD was gone, he had to figure it out afterwards. Okay, cool. Whatever it took. That's what he's done. Like, I want to see if Steph Curry can get to 5 rings, get to 6 rings. Like, that's all on the table for him because that's how good he is still. It ain't on the table as long as he's on this terrible-ass team. So, if that part of it, man, like, I would expect that Steph Curry ends up just biting the bullet and just decides, I'm going to just stay here because I'm beloved here, I'm a legend here, I'm an icon here. And as much as he's never going to kick and scream, but his version of kicking and screaming may be just, I'm not going to sign his extension until the last second. I'm sure he'll kick it. That'll be his version of kicking and screaming, but I don't know if he has it in him to say, listen, you know what? All right, y'all want me? Send me to Charlotte. If Steph Curry joins the Charlotte Hornets tomorrow, Charlotte Hornets are a major threat in the Eastern Conference. They just had LaMelo Ball, and they were the highest team in the NBA in the second half of the season. Imagine they had Steph freaking Curry. Like, are you kidding me? They would be an awesome team. Like, again, I can name a lot of teams in the Eastern Conference you could throw Steph Curry on. If you wanted to join the Miami Heat, this is not something I'm asking for as a Knicks fan. I don't want Steph Curry smoke. But, I mean, there's a reality that there's something to be had and more potential achievements that he can go after that just he can't even sniff as long as he's playing for this team. It's actually crazy to me, like, how little this Warrior offseason was. I like the draft pick, Yaxel Lindenborg. Like, I think that was a good pick. When we did our draft shows, difference makers, I identified him as somebody that I thought was a good fit there. So, he's a rookie. So we'll see what happens. Certainly rookies can come in and make a huge impact, and maybe Yaxel will be the guy for the Warriors that comes in and makes a huge impact. But outside of him, there just really wasn't a lot from this Warrior team in terms of what they were trying to do to improve their squad this year. They just didn't do much. So I have a tough time looking at the Warriors, looking at Steph Curry and where he's at in his career, and realizing that, like, the chance of seeing him play relevant basketball, kind of like, it may already be over. Like, I don't know when the next time you're going to see the Warriors in any serious situation to compete for a championship. I mean, I hope Jimmy Butler comes back healthy for his sake, but he's an older player now. He's 36 years old, coming off an ACL injury. I'm looking at a squad that still has Al Horford, who's 40 years old. Again, Moses Moody, Kristaps Porzingis has been a walking injury. It's not a good team, man. Like, there's not a lot here. So we'll have to see. But I'm somebody, man. I would love to see Steph Curry playing somewhere else. Like, I think it's better for the league. I think it's just like this LeBron thing has been great for the league. Like, there is this like myth that, like, as much as it is annoying, as much as sometimes, not all of them. Sometimes it can be annoying. Sometimes you can feel like things are unfair with guys teaming up to play on one team. But player movement has been good for the NBA. Like, the amount of attention and just the amount of attention and interest it drives alone is good. Like, it would be great for the league if Steph Curry got to play a season or 2 seasons on a title contender, see if he could make an impact on another franchise. Because I think about, like, Dwayne Wade. Like, Dwayne Wade went and played for the Chicago Bulls for a couple of years or however long it was. Nobody looks on him and says, oh, Dwayne Wade's not Mr. Miami Heat anymore because he played those couple years with the Bulls. Nobody cares. He did it. It was kind of terrible. But he had to play his hometown team. Pat Riley didn't want to pay him. So, we kind of moved on. Like, it's fine. Like, there are so many examples of guys who played so many years with so many teams, and, like, it didn't matter that they ended their career on some other team. It stunk. Like, it stunk to see Hakeem Olajuwon playing with the Raptors, and Patrick Ewing playing with the Orlando Magic. But does anyone think, I don't think of Patrick Ewing as a real Knick anymore because he played with the Magic and Sonics? Come on. Like, that's just like romanticist nonsense. Like, again, it's one thing when you're Kevin Durant, when you're jumping from team to team, you have no loyalty to anything, no loyalty to a fan base. And I think I've mentioned that. I think for players like that, it's going to be very fascinating, like, how they are received in, like, their older years. I don't know if, like, they're really going to get real love from anywhere. Like, I think that was the danger for the stuff Kevin Durant was doing. Like, the place he won championships with, he's kind of become a little ostracized by a lot of those fans. So, is he going to go back to Oklahoma City? They can't stand him. Is he gonna go back to Brooklyn where he failed? That was a disaster. The fans don't necessarily hate him, but it just didn't work out well. It was a terrible situation. So that's not what Steph Curry has. Steph Curry will always be able to go back to the Golden State Warriors. We saw Klay Thompson. He was obviously thrown out, but Klay Thompson, when the Mavs came to Golden State to play, and they had all the Captain Klay hats, and he's crying and everything. Like, it was a beautiful moment. He'll have that beautiful moment playing for some other team. I don't understand this thing that he can't play for some other squad when he's still a dominant player in the NBA. It's ridiculous to me, and it sucks that I feel like, yeah, we're gonna see Steph Curry's career, that twilight of his career where he's still really good, come and go, kind of like as a nothing burger. Like, it's just like, he averaged 26 points a game last year. Shot 48% from the field, 46% from the field, 38% from three, 39% from three. I'm sorry. He was almost 50, 40, 90 last year at 38. He gets a little banged up every now and then, but he's definitely still got it. No question about that. Staying in the Bay Area. This Kyle Shanahan situation has been a little odd, not just from the 49ers standpoint, but also from how it's been covered. So Kyle Shanahan, today, he shed light on a car collision that gave him several injuries, including broken ribs. He had, I believe, 40-plus stitches and a severe concussion. The injuries were occurred on July 14th, but it was only announced at midnight on July 25th. So, I guess that was that Friday or Saturday. Like, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we got this news that Kyle Shanahan was injured in this car accident. Nobody knew about it. Niners make the announcement at midnight. At 12:01, Adam Schefter and ESPN's Niners reporter, they have a report immediately afterwards. 12:01, they have the report that included quotes from John Lynch and local law enforcement in Northern California, which seemed like so the Niners announced something. You had a story ready that you didn't hit publish on until 12:01. Why were you withholding this information? It didn't seem to make... There seems to be no good reason as to why the story was withheld. It definitely is newsworthy, obviously. It's keeping him from coaching the team right now. There's an assistant coach who stepped in as the interim head coach until Kyle Shanahan's able to recover from his injuries. But that report goes out. They get these quotes. It's not detailed really who was at fault in the crime. All it said, or rather the collision, I'm sorry. All it said was that essentially there was a collision, there were these injuries, and no alcohol or drugs in any way was a part of it. So at least that part we did know from the initial reporting. But then when you looked up, there was a California database that has everything on traffic collisions. It claimed that the other driver, who was a 21-year-old woman, was at fault for the crash because she had, quote, made an unsafe left turn, despite those same records also stating that Shanahan had a phone in his hand at the time of the crash. It also seemed weird because it's like a one-way, double-way street, so like how would she be making a left turn there? Didn't seem to make much sense, even just from hearing the initial details of what happened. So Shanahan spoke today, and he cleared the air. He took full accountability for the crash. He said that he essentially dropped his phone, and he went down while he was driving to pick up his phone. Of course, that means you take your eyes off the road. Looks up. He had veered across the double lines and collided head-on with this woman's car, and that's how the crash happened. And he said that the statement claiming that the woman was at fault for the crash was false, and that he was the one that was at fault, and that he had hit her car. The local police and Shanahan had said that it was a clerical error that was posted online that said that she was the person that was at fault. So again, there's no timetable for Shanahan's return to coaching, as assistant coach and offensive line coach Chris Forrester assumes head coaching duties at this time. Listen, first of all, I'm very happy that Kyle Shanahan's okay. Like, that needs to be said just immediately. It sounds like this is something that, like, he says is a 20 mile. They were going 20 miles an hour. At least I think he said he was going 20 miles an hour. I don't know how fast the other car was going. So it wasn't like he was going. He was speeding, thank goodness. But it still said, he said it was he described it as a very violent crash. Which is 20 miles an hour, even in a car. Still, it hit something hard, it's going to hurt. So he described it still as a violent crash, but he said he was only driving 20 miles an hour. I'm glad he's okay. And okay is relative. Again, he had all these stitches, broken ribs, this concussion that he is still dealing with concussion symptoms, according to him. Also, Chris Sims, who's a friend of Kyle Shanahan because they played together at Texas, he had noted that, he had word of it. He's not a reporter, so nobody's really slamming him for not coming out with information. But he had heard that Kyle got hurt, and his wife had talked to him about how he was doing. He knew that he was dealing with these concussion syndrome, and this is going to be something that he's going to probably have to deal with leading up to the season. So I'm glad that Kyle Shanahan's okay. I do think that this was an episode, unfortunately, of what continues to be the peeling back of just the lengths that NFL teams and sometimes even their media partners will go to. And even not even media partners, because there's other people who may have knew about this stuff too. People who report on the Niners, like how far they will go to keep relationships intact or to protect these institutions. Because listen, it's not like Kyle Shanahan. Thank goodness he didn't kill anybody. It sounds like the woman was not injured in this, which is a blessing, obviously. So at the end of the day, it seems like, for all intents and purposes, outside of the stuff he's dealing with, it seems like everyone got away lucky at this time around. But Kyle Shanahan's a public figure. Him being injured in a car accident is definitely newsworthy information, especially if it's going to impact his abilities to be the head coach of the 49ers, which it is. The fact that this story was held for 11 days by both the Niners and the people who, well, we know ESPN held it because they had it 1 minute afterwards. I don't know if there's anyone else who held it. It just speaks to how nasty this game is a little bit, I don't, like, again, from a journalistic standpoint, there's no reason not to report that information as soon as you learn about that information. But if you want to keep your relationship tight with the NFL, you want to make sure everything's copacetic. That's probably why you don't. That's why you see a report that comes out 12:01 as soon as this happens. Maybe that's also why you don't see the detail about the fact that Kyle Shanahan was on his phone in those initial reports, because that's an important detail. And I'm glad Shanahan, I don't know why he did this. It could have been the goodness of his heart. Could have been something else. I don't know what. But it doesn't really even matter. I'm glad he cleared this up, because what also happens with these incidents is you had a violent incident that happened with a head coach who gets injured for a team it could be any team, but obviously the 49ers are one of the high-profile teams. He's one of the most high-profile coaches in the NFL. And the initial story that gets out is 21-year-old driver makes an unsafe turn and collides into, very famous head coach who now has severe injuries and can't coach the team right now. You could see how the domino effect of what could happen for that young woman can easily play out in a different way if you don't tell the truth. And again, clerical error, okay, whatever. You say clerical error, whatever. But the point being is that, you let the story fester. Then this story that came out was inaccurate. To some degree. At least some of it was inaccurate. I mean, Kyle Shanahan's in a bed somewhere, recovering from a concussion. I'm not blaming him. But Niners, police, whoever the case may be, some part of this was inaccurate. Whether it's clerical error or, again, you meant to be inaccurate. There's a scenario where if Kyle doesn't stand up and say, hey, listen, it's my fault that this happened and I'm the one to blame for this because I was on my phone and I shouldn't have been. When that was what the people who were on the scene said. The police who were there deemed Kyle Shanahan to be in the fault. They deemed that there. That's what we've learned now in these reports that have come out. So the fact that information was withheld and then the information that got out was that a young woman was at fault. You're putting people's lives at risk, man. These some crazy people out here. And I'm not at all saying hey, we should just be only thinking about protecting people in tough situations. But when there's bad information that goes out or lack of information or lack of transparency, you're putting people at risk in a way that is unnecessary. This is not a scandal. He got in an accident, he got hurt. It seems like he made a mistake. I'm sure he wishes he didn't do it again. But, you created this hysteria around this story because there's a lot of people wondering, oh, what are the 49ers hiding? Is this some kind of massive cover-up? When there was no need for that. He got hurt. There's no reason couldn't come out and say, hey, he got hurt. He was on his phone when he crashed. And, he's recovering now. We wish him nothing but the best and have him in your prayers. Instead, you're going to have this charade for 10 days, 11 days, we don't know what's going on, and then the initial report is, oh, don't worry, he didn't do anything wrong. In fact, it was some 21-year-old girl who did this. That part of it, man, it don't look good, man. It don't look good. It don't feel good. I'm happy it got cleared up, but, between this, we saw what happened with Diana Rossini and Mike Vrabel and how that blurred the lines of what is real journalism, what is ethical. Schefter has had, previous incidents, when it came to the Mr. Editor situation that came out in the, John Gruden email investigation. I just wish we do better. I just wish as a industry, that insider industry I don't work as part of that field, obviously. I don't know what goes into that field. And someone will say maybe it's not my place to say if I don't know. But I know that, letting some 21-year-old woman who was unidentified, thank goodness, but again, we know how the internet is. It would have been maybe days, maybe hours until we found out who this person was and what you may have brought onto that person because you may have been trying to protect a head coach who, again, he didn't commit a crime. He committed a traffic violation for sure. But for committing a traffic, because he committed a traffic violation, it scares you what they will also be able to, what they also are willing to cover up, and what they also are willing to try to navigate and try to manipulate when it comes to maybe other worse things. So I just wanted to make sure I talked about that. Again, all the best to Kyle Shanahan. Hope he continues to recover, because obviously concussions are no joke. Broken ribs are no joke. All the injuries he seemed to suffer seem serious. They're not life threatening, obviously, which is good. But he says that Monday he was feeling good. Today was rough. It's going to be a kind of off and on thing in terms of when he's able to feel fully 100% for a little while. So it's going to be important to follow. What else we got here today? Let's talk about Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter got signed. Shout out to him. I guess let's give him a little congratulations, applause. Eagles defensive tackle. As soon as I can get my soundboard up. There you go. Let's get that round of applause for Jalen Carter. So he signs a long-term deal with the Eagles. I believe the terms were around 4 years, $160 million, $100 million guaranteed. He's more than $100 million guaranteed. He's the highest paid defensive tackle now in the NFL. It's hard to describe this as anything but a good move for the Eagles. I mean, Jalen Carter is a beast. $152 million is the total value of the deal. It could be worth up to $160. That was the deal that was negotiated. $106 million guaranteed. Jalen Carter is a beast. Jalen Carter, when he's healthy, last year at the end of the year, he seemed to deal with some shoulder issues that required they didn't want to call it surgery, but it was some kind of medical procedure that he needed late in the season for both of his shoulders. When he's healthy, though, he's a force. He's a beast. He's definitely one of the most talented defensive players in the league. So he's well worth the money, and it speaks to just how awesome Howie Roseman at this. Because how many times do you see these teams that, like the Cowboys, for example, like they struggle to find a way to retain and keep their own players that they drafted. Signing Dak Prescott, they have to go through a bunch of hoops and franchise tags, and CeeDee Lamb is a whole thing, and Micah Parsons is a whole thing, so much so that they had to trade him. Like, they couldn't even figure it out. And now you got the Eagles, who it seems like any good player they have that comes up, oh yeah, we'll re-sign him. Yeah, no problem. Any good player on the market that's a free agent, Saquon Barkley, yeah, no problem. We can figure it out. Like, it does speak to how much Howie Roseman is just kind of running rings around some of these other franchises in the NFL. Because you're like, how the hell do you sign Jordan Davis to some huge deal, another defensive tackle, and then months later you're signing this guy to the biggest deal? Meanwhile, you still got Jalen Hurts on a huge contract. He's just paid Devontae Smith a couple years ago. I mean, they got money being thrown around everywhere. And then next year, you're probably going to have to play Cooper DeJean. So there's going to be more money to be spent. But I have no doubt that Howie Roseman is going to be able to figure it out. The Eagles, they had obviously a disappointing, end to their season last year, but they're obviously a first-rate organization. I do hope with Jalen Carter, he's somebody that has really matured and that he can live up to this contract. His talent, there's no question he can live up to it. But there has been, maturity questions with him. He had the spinning on, Dak Prescott week 1 where, cost him, that game. That was stupid. And, he's had other incidents on blow-ups on the sidelines. And then, obviously, in Georgia, there was the crash that, killed his, one of his teammates, the recruiting director, where he was speeding. There was, and also, of course, the, details coming out of Georgia that maybe he wasn't the best character guy, which is why he slid in the draft. So this deal is definitely a cosign of not just Jalen Carter the talent, but Jalen Carter the person. So I hope that he can live up to that aspect, that aspect of it. We see sometimes that guys will be on their best behavior, and maybe this is the version we've had of Jalen Carter in his first few years, which were mostly good, but had a couple of slip-ups. Maybe that's the best version of his best behavior until they get their money, and then they decide, all right, now I can do whatever I want. And you hope for him that's not the case, because if he wants to, he could be one of the most destructive interior defensive linemen we've seen in this generation. That's how good he can be. But it's about focus, it's about maturity. Those are things that have been question marks for him. The Eagles had to bring him back, though. You could make a case, maybe you should trade him. Like, we got to get out of this. I think Bill Belichick, and we'll get to him in a second, I think kind of how he ran the Patriots in some ways kind of skewed sometimes how we view the NFL. Anybody that is about to get a ton of money and may have some question, it's just like, just trade him. You'll be better without it. You'll figure it out. Like, because we saw Belichick for so many years not pay anybody. Just be like, Tom Brady, you got to take a pay cut. And then everybody else, like, as soon as you're, like, even look like you're a hair slower or he sees one gray hair on that head, he's getting your ass out of there before, you even blink. And it was like, and look how many championships there were. It's like, look, the Patriots showed that these guys are all expendable. You could just replace these guys, and you could just find a great player just anywhere. And like we've seen just how silly that is. Like that's not that's not true. They were able to do that because they had Tom Brady. And they had Tom Brady and they had a defensive mastermind in Bill Belichick, who's one of the greatest coaches of all time. So they were able to find a way to get around maybe getting rid of the guys a year too early rather than a year too late. Or letting go of guys who maybe were bad character guys, for the sake of bringing somebody who maybe made more sense or fit the team, what's the word? Like the team concept better. Not everyone else has the luxury of Tom Brady or having Bill Belichick's football intellect to manage this thing. Howie Roseman knows that. He has Nick Sirianni. So, yeah, no, you need for a guy like that and Jalen Hurts. So those guys, you need to give them great players. Give them a great running back, great receivers, give them a great defense, a great defensive line. Like those are the things you want to do to maximize your window. And, there was no way, even if you're a little queasy about Jalen Carter's character, and I am, I'll be clear, I am one of those people who is queasy about his character. In this NFL, there's like, so you're going to lose him and then there's no way to replace him. Like, I know you have Jordan Davis, but he's not the same kind of player as Carter. So my thing is maybe you don't pay Davis. Maybe pay that was maybe the deal. I don't know if I would have done, but bringing Carter back was a no-brainer. So congrats to him. I'm excited to see what he does this upcoming season for the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's keep the ball moving. Shout out to Hakeem the Dream 3928 in the chat. OG the real MVP. I'll be honest, I don't have the timestamp on this. I have no idea when you said this. 6:45. Okay, now I do have the timestamp. My bad. 6:45. I was probably talking about LeBron still. I don't know what the reference is to why OG is the real MVP was mentioned, but I appreciate it. OG was important. Jalen Brunson was the MVP. I'll make that clear. Like Jalen Brunson was the MVP. He deserved to win Finals MVP. But OG Anunoby was money in the playoffs. He had the biggest play in Knicks history with that tip in. He was a playoff championship hero. Like he's immortalized in New York. So always got love for OG. Shout out to Hakeem the Dream 3928 for tapping into the show today. Let's keep the ball moving and let's head over to college football. I've been wanting to talk about this. So, North Carolina general manager Michael Lombardi has been placed on administrative leave. The UNC football fans got an unwelcome bit of news to start the college football training camp and season, basically, with Michael Lombardi, the general manager, being placed on administrative leave. The GM was placed on immediate leave stemming from what the school is saying is a human resources complaint. The school released a statement saying, as is standard procedure with personnel, leadership, staff, and student athletes are prohibited from addressing this topic further and no reflection on the merits. And had no reflection on the merits. So all we know is he's on leave. There's some allegations. We don't know what they are, but nobody can talk about it until they actually investigate it. So there's that obvious caveat that we have to see what happened, what is going on, why did this happen, is there any truth to this? So we need to be responsible in that. We don't know what Michael Lombardi may or may not have done. What I will say, though, is this is another embarrassing moment for a Bill Belichick stint in North Carolina that has only been embarrassing. Because Michael Lombardi was hired as the general manager of this team, somebody who has zero experience at all in college football, athletics, how they are as of today. And yet was very braggadocious and very open to running his mouth off about what they were going to accomplish at North Carolina and how they had the blueprint of success because of their shared experience in the NFL. Michael Lombardi obviously previously worked in the Patriot organization under Bill Belichick from 2014 to 2016. He was the general manager of the Browns for one season prior to those years in 2013. He also spent 8 years with the Raiders working in the personnel department under Al Davis. Al Davis's words for him are kind of like mixed if you ever hear quotes about how he feels about Michael Lombardi. But Lombardi always spoke highly about his time working with Al Davis during that time with the Raiders. But this is a guy who was talking about we're the 33rd team and, was kind of open about taking shots at other schools. I'm a Miami Hurricanes fan. I remember the multiple shots prior to when Michael Lombardi was even working in college football, when he was an analyst taking shots at Mario Cristobal at Miami. And then when he got to North Carolina, taking shots at Mario Cristobal in Miami, and about how they don't do things right and that they knew the blueprint. They knew how to get things done. And to me, when I see administrative leave, he's out for a while. I don't know what it is. Michael Lombardi is somebody, and we've seen now because of the reporting that has come out, is he somebody that has clearly made enemies among the locals who cover North Carolina, among people who cover college football, and just how they speak about him. So what happens with that is you create enemies, you open yourself up to maybe things you wouldn't think you would open yourself up to for people who may have access to grind. And I know he made a comment, again, a lot of these comments are really coming back to kind of bite him in the behind a little bit. He made a comment, when talking about people kind of lamenting North Carolina program. He kind of said something like, oh, well, people only attack you with fake news when you're doing something, right? People only care about getting clickbait and stuff when you actually matter. It's like you invite that kind of nonsense. Nonsense usually gets brought onto your door, especially if you're not producing W's. And North Carolina was a dumpster fire last year. They stunk. They were a crab ass, awful football team. They looked poorly coached. They didn't look like they had talent, and they looked like they were poorly structured, like they were unorganized. They didn't look nothing like what you expect from a Bill Belichick product, and what was promised, which was to be the 33rd team in the NFL. They were a joke. So there's a lot of pressure on Bill Belichick and how this thing's gonna turn around. There's been reports also that Michael Lombardi had sent, letter during the Clemson week when they got destroyed at home. He sent a letter to the boosters basically saying, oh, don't you guys remember this is a rebuild year, when he was saying the whole time that this was the 33rd team in the NFL. He said that. And then he also, I didn't even know this story. I learned this today. Apparently there was a quarterback at Purdue that they got to transfer based on the NIL deal that he then tried to take back and not pay the kid. Like, it's just, there's all this stuff with this guy that when you heard this, when I saw this headline, I wasn't surprised. I'm like, I don't know what it is, but this guy's made enough enemies. People have described him as rude and mean. I have met Michael Lombardi. He was not rude or mean to me, but I'm saying all that to say, though, like, to be clear, this is what people have been saying about him, and then now you got this. All this, in the end, goes back to what feels like continues to be kind of dumbfounding mistakes from Bill Belichick. Like, it's been made rather obvious that this is not somebody that probably should be running a college football organization in Michael Lombardi. Michael Lombardi, I think he's a pretty talented commentator. He's a very good analyst. I've had him as a guest on Maggie and Perloff. Football GM as an NFL person. I mean, he's been around the league for a while. I haven't seen him as a general manager ever lead to a team winning a championship or going to playoffs or anything like that. He was a part of the Patriots, so I know he knows football at the very least. But this is, again, college, where there's so many different dynamics. You're dealing with younger people. You have this NIL situation. Now you have this house settlement where you're trying to divvy up, correctly, the revenue that you make. You got to deal with boosters. Didn't deal with university. You got to deal with state laws because you're working at a state university. Like, there's just these aspects of this. This is not a private institution or a private company. This is a public university. And Bill Belichick, whether it's how much he has allowed Jordan Hudson to be involved intimately with everything North Carolina is doing, or with bringing this guy around, and Lombardi, who was only brought embarrassment to the organization, to the team, it just speaks to somebody that, once again, with every headline, every bad headline that happens in North Carolina, it just validates all those NFL teams who want nothing to do with this guy. Like, all those NFL teams that got, slammed for not wanting Bill Belichick, even though it looked like he'd already lost his fastball at New England, are looking at a guy who looks like he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He looks like a guy who doesn't have any control of his organization, or maybe he has too much control. I don't know if I mentioned that the thing about how him and Lombardi schemed to not allow the Patriots to scout North Carolina players on campus. They were the only team of all the 32 teams in the NFL that were banned from North Carolina's campus. And the reasoning was like, well, if Bill's not welcome there, then why would they be welcome here? And Robert Kraft, like, Bill is welcome here. Like, Bill, he was at the Tom Brady's statue unveiling the other week. What are you talking about? Like, he always can come here. He's just not allowed to work here. But, like, see, like, I say, like, sometimes, man, like, and I hate to do that. I don't want to sound ageist, man, but there are times where just you lose your fastball, the game goes past you by, the job, the responsibilities of being an NFL or a college head coach become too much and for you and this stage of your life, and maybe at that point it's time to move on. It just feels like that's where Bill Belichick is. He ran the Patriots thing into the ground. They were one of the best organizations ever to, maybe the best ever assembled in the history of the NFL. What he created in New England, I'm never going to take that away from him, even if I do think there was issues with cheating and all those other things. Regardless, you still got to play on the field. You still got to execute, and the Patriots won more than anybody else. So I'll always give him that credit. But once he ran Tom Brady out of town, when the guy could still play and won a Super Bowl somewhere else, he hitched his wagon to first Cam Newton and then Mac Jones. That flopped. He had Matt Patricia and Joe Judge calling offensive plays in his last year. And last year he was with the Patriots. They won 3 or 4 games in his last season. The game might just be past him. He'd probably be an awesome analyst. I would love to sit down and talk football with Bill Belichick. I would probably pay money to do that because I know he remembers more football than he has forgotten more football than I'll ever know. But again, there's responsibilities and there's just nuances to actually being in the fire every day that he just continues to display that he does not have it anymore. And I think those NFL teams knew it. And maybe they knew it because Robert Kraft told them, and then maybe that's why Bill Belichick's mad about that. But if that's what Bob Kraft told them, guess what? He was right. Because he went to North Carolina, and listen, North Carolina ain't Alabama. North Carolina ain't Notre Dame. It ain't Ohio State. It ain't Michigan. It ain't one of them kind of schools. It's always been kind of like a average ACC team. But it's Bill Belichick. You would think that he could get there. And given the transfer portal and what we saw with Curt Cignetti, a guy who coached at James Madison, went to Indiana, a terrible Big Ten school. In North Carolina, Indiana wished they had North Carolina's history and track record in college football. 2 basketball schools, ironically. Curt Cignetti, who understood college football, understood what it takes to be a leader, understood what it took to run a program, was able to go from from James Madison to Indiana and overnight turn them into national power. I'm not even asking for Bill Belichick to have done that. I'm just asking them to take North Carolina from an average team to like good, and they're just taking massive steps back. It seems like with every bad headline, there's no expectation that they're going to be some great team this year. Like, what was all this for? I'll be honest. Again, when it comes to legacy, will it ruin his legacy? It's probably too hard to say it's going to ruin his legacy. He's won too much. But I'm going to, this is not going to be forgotten. There's a difference between your legacy is not ruined by a misstep and this is not forgotten. Like, there's aspects of, like, there's sometimes you can do things and, like, we just forget certain things because it don't really matter. Because, whatever, they're so great. The people who forget, like, people probably have forgotten that, Michael Jordan got stripped by Nick Anderson in 95. Like, that's not something that gets talked about a lot. We talk about the greatness of Michael Jordan because 6 championships, the shot against Utah, all the things, right? We know the story of Michael Jordan, right? Even with LeBron, the decision is not forgotten, but it's not a big part of his story anymore. It was for a large part of his career, but he's done so much since he's played so long. That probably the smartest thing he ever did was just play forever. So there was just so much lore that you can't hedge your thing on this one little thing he did, which was actually a massive thing. But the decision is not something that that is carried with him every day, especially because the people of Cleveland have embraced him again. The people of Ohio have embraced him again because he went back and won a title. He kind of erased that. Like, there's some things that are maybe unsavory in your career that can end up being forgotten by a lot of people because of your prowess on the field or on the court. And there's some things that just can't. This feels like one of those things to me that won't. It's not gonna say, oh, the championships don't matter and the New England run doesn't matter because this happened. But to me, when I think Bill Belichick, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, wow, incredible Patriots coach. Remember how ridiculous that North Carolina run was? Remember he had that weird 20-year-old girlfriend who was running around like she ran the place, and he had some guy Lombardi who acted like he was Vince Lombardi and not Mike Lombardi, and then he got we'll see how this goes. He may have gotten implicated in something unsavory and therefore was on administrative leave. There's also, by the way, an investigation at North Carolina regarding how they are divvying NIL funds. It could be maybe related to that Purdue quarterback. But, I'm going to remember it. I'm sorry. I'm going to remember it. And I think a lot of people will, too, because of the absurdity of it. It's absurd for this guy to be running around with a 23-year-old girlfriend who's running the show. It's absurd for Michael Lombardi to be running around like he's invented football and that they're the 33rd team in the NFL and they won 4 games last year. And now he's on administrative leave. It's absurd how all this thing went down, how they were banning the Patriots, how he basically lamented the entire NFL and thumbed his nose at the entire league for not signing him and then did this. That stuff ain't gonna be forgotten, man. You want to have the biggest Patriot rose-colored glasses imaginable. You want to say I'm never gonna remember? All right, that's you, buddy. A lot of people are going to remember Jordan Hudson and Mike Lombardi and this disaster because it's going to be another crappy-ass season in North Carolina. They're going to lose another 8 or 9 games this year. They're going to be like, man, the greatest head coach in NFL history went to the ACC and got his ass kicked. I'm telling you, that's not going to be something that's going to be forgotten. He could have just done it in anonymity. I didn't even know that Bill Walsh ended his career at Stanford. You know why? Because it wasn't a train wreck. It wasn't a laughing stock. All right, he went there and they won 6 games or 5 games, whatever they won, and then it was over. That was it. There was nothing newsworthy about it. This guy, it's scandal, questionable decisions, questionable quotes, weird people hanging around the weird people hanging around the facility. And weird people, I mean Jordan Hudson, and Lombardi running the show. It's a joke. Absolute joke, man. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens with Bill. But I don't know. That thing. I thought he was going to do well at North Carolina. I did initially. And then I saw the first year. I saw his recruiting rankings. And listen, I'm old school, man. When it comes to following college football, I used to live on, and to some degree I still do, Rivals.com. That was the big one when I grew up. They're still around, of course. They're in conjunction with On3. And now 247 Sports, where I'm a subscribed member. So I live this recruiting game. I'm getting up now on the transfer game because you have to because of the nature of college football. So I'm like, oh, cool. Bill Belichick's there. I mean, not cool. I'm a Miami fan. They're in the conference. So I'm a little worried. But okay, well, let's see how that's going to go. North Carolina becomes a little more interesting. And after the first Bill Belichick offseason, and I know he got there a little late, but the first Bill Belichick offseason, I saw that list of recruits and transfers, and I saw where they ranked. I mean, they must have ranked near the bottom of the ACC. And I'm like, how is he going to win without any players? And then the people were like, oh, you're jumping. It's Bill Belichick. He's going to figure it out. I'm like, yo, I don't know, guys. I'm telling you, I've watched college football. Yes, you can have teams with great recruiting rankings, and it doesn't really matter. We've seen that a ton. But typically, the best teams are the teams that are ranked the top. If you want to see who the top 5 teams are at the end of the year, you can pretty much probably match that up with the recruiting classes for those years when those kids came in, and typically you'll find the best teams. That's typically how this has always worked. So when I looked, this was 2025. Let me just see where North Carolina ranked at the end of this. They were 36. I was like, that's the best they could have did in his first year? 36? And that's just the recruiting. That didn't include the overall. That didn't include the transfer portal. I kept waiting for where is the big with the transfer portal? They were 29. I was like, where is the big acquisition? Where is the big Oh, now Belichick said this 5-star quarterback wants to play for him. I wasn't seeing that. I kept seeing guys that like I never heard of that were signing to North Carolina. They ended up being 5th in the ACC, and they turned over their roster. They were 5th because they had 71 commits. They basically cut the entire team. So they had a million guys, but it wasn't like they of the 71 guys, they only had 8 4-stars. That's a crazy ratio. For reference, Miami, who was number 1 that year, the U, had 25 4-stars with just 40 commits. So like I'm looking at the recruiting rankings. I'm like, he's an entirely new team. The team he seemed to bring in wasn't that good. Where are these wins coming from? I'm curious what they did this year in terms of their recruiting rankings. I don't feel good about this being also that high. But let's see. Okay, this year they did much better. They were 3rd. So this year, okay, so we gotta see. Maybe this year will be different. This year they were 3rd. They had 61 commits, so they still had to turn over a lot of the roster. But they had 12 4-stars. Okay, that's a lot better. See where they were at in transfers. When it came to the transfer portal, North Carolina was okay. They didn't really do much in the transfer portal. They only had 20. They had 20 transfer commits. Most of these guys were kind of low-end guys. All of them were 3 stars or less. But in the recruiting, they did really well. So they seemed to get some decent players in the recruiting trail this time around, at least. So in the ACC in recruiting, they finished. Let's see. This is like jumping on me. Let me see. Recruiting, they finished 2nd. That's excellent in the ACC, of course. That's excellent for them. And overall, they ended up finishing 17th. So maybe we gotta see if he can turn this around, man. We gotta see if he can turn this around. I don't know. This has not been a good start to this whole Bill Belichick situation, if you ask me. I want to see. It's like things I'm like I didn't put in the show. I'm like, no, I want to talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's keep this going. I'm having a fun time today. 40 days and counting. Streaming live, multiple spots. Streaming live on YouTube. New Generation Media. If you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor. Give me a thumbs up. Like this video. Comment in the comment section. Subscribe to the channel. All those things help the channel grow. Help your boy grow. It all is appreciated. So we would love for you to do that. Also live on X. If you're watching on X, you can hit me up on X, EJ_Stewart. You can comment on the video on X. You can, of course, follow me on social media and follow me on X, EJ_Stewart. And like the video on X as well. That helps as well. Also streaming live on Instagram. Shout out to the folks checking us out on Instagram. We're on Instagram Live. Action EJ is where you'll find me on Instagram. Shout out to my guy Nick Theodoro. Shout out to Green1968 for checking out the show at some point in time during this whole extravaganza this evening. This has been fun. So appreciate you guys. And we're live on Buzzer. Once again, download the Buzzer mobile app or go to bzzr.com to sign up. There's some figures in sports. I try to be fair. You know me. I say it anytime I do a radio show or anytime I do any kind of content. I would say 2 rules. Number 1, I keep it 100. Number 2, I'm ducking no smoke. And I always say there's like additional unofficial, official rules that I also go by. It's almost like the in and out secret menu that like it's not on the screen or not announced, but it's there. That are also principles of any content and show I do. And the third being that EJ, just like his mama, Elisa Stewart, just wanted things to be fair. I try to be a very fair person in giving full opportunity for people to accomplish whatever they want to do, see things through, and even if there's something I don't like or see, I try to at least see the other side of it, or at least present a fair case against it. I'm not gonna, there are folks who will not acknowledge facts about certain things to improve their points. I hate those kind of people in terms of how they debate. I hate that kind of commentary. So I don't like to bring that to me. So I'm gonna acknowledge where there may be shortcomings in my case, just to be fair. All that being said, I think when it comes to most loathed current sports figures for your boy, Tom Dundon, the owner of the Portland Trail Blazers, this dude is numero uno. So if you've not been following what's going on with the Portland Trail Blazers, they were bought towards the end of last season by a gentleman by the name of Tom Dundon. He was, or is, the owner of the Carolina Hurricanes in the National Hockey League. In all fairness to him, as owner of the Carolina Hurricanes, they are legit. They were just in the Stanley Cup. They've been one of the top teams in the NHL during his ownership run. They went to the Stanley Cup in 2006. They won the Stanley Cup this past season. He's been like they've been successful. So you can't really criticize him as owner of the Carolina Hurricanes. I'm seeing that I guess people were upset that he had family members' names engraved on the trophy in a more prominent position than the names of players and coaches. That is a little weird, but to be honest, it's par for the course for this guy. So I'm not surprised by that. But otherwise, you can't really criticize his NHL stuff. So in fairness to the NBA, they probably saw what he accomplished as owner of the Carolina Hurricanes. And when the Portland Trail Blazers came to fail, they said, well, why not this guy? Like, he seems to be doing a good job in the NHL. So let's bring him on. He wants to own an NBA team. Okay, here you go. Here's the Portland Trail Blazers. This gentleman's tenure has only been met with oddity, antagonism, and what feels like an outright disdain for the city of Portland and norms that come with the NBA. Among them, for a team that was one of the best stories in the NBA this season, they were kind of under the radar because it was Portland and they don't have like a big star. But one of the best stories in the NBA last season. I mean, Chauncey Billups gets caught in the FBI gambling situation. You're thinking, okay, for a team that already didn't have playoff aspirations, this is going to be a rough season. Thiago Splitter takes over as head coach, does a phenomenal job, gets the most out of a lot of really good young players. Denny Avdia becomes an all-star. Shaedon Sharpe has a good year. Kamani has a good year. Like, they had Toumani Camara had a good year. Like, they had a lot of players step up. I thought Scoot Henderson had a really good playoff appearance against the San Antonio Spurs. He had some really good games in the playoffs. And you're like, wow, okay. Portland, like, I don't know if they're some championship team, but, man, you want to talk about turning lemons into lemonade. Like, Splitter did a good job. Players stepped up. Surprise all-star appearance from somebody on the team. Like, this looks like a team that maybe is building towards something. So you think all is good, and this is a good team to be taking over a good time. And then we started to learn about some of the things and how Dundon wanted to run this team. It included, as they were making the playoffs, not allowing guys who were inactive because they were not on the active roster because of injury to travel with the team, even though they're part of the team. It included not giving out playoff t-shirts to the fans for the home games, which is a staple in the NBA. Like, it's great. Everybody wears the same color shirt. Presents somewhat of like a home court advantage and an intimidation factor for the other team if done correctly. MSG never does it correctly because Knicks fans only care about what they're wearing because they're in New York and they're fashionable and they'll never wear the damn t-shirt, which always pisses me off. But typically, places like Portland usually do this thing right. No t-shirts because, quote-unquote, it was too expensive. Not paying for extended stays in hotels because you didn't want people to think this was a vacation, quote-unquote, apparently. When their team was on the road. Like, these are real things that had come up during this guy's early tenure, which has been, he just inherited a playoff team, and this is how he showed up, doing this crap. So, the season ended weirdly. It kind of, for a team that had all this good mojo, it kind of, like, ended with a whimper, with this guy kind of being a wet blanket. They got beat by the Spurs after, it seemed like they had a window after Wemby got hurt, and, with a concussion. And they got bounced and whatever. You went into the offseason, the head coach that took you to the playoffs, you don't resign because you're not going to pay him a typical head coaching salary. You hire a head coach in Mike Nori, who is on a 1-year deal. A new head coach. A brand new head coach. Not an interim guy. Not somebody that's like, a Chauncey Billups situation. We got to throw somebody in there. No. The new permanent head coach for the Blazers because of this guy and his vision of sports franchises is on a 1-year deal. Do I have to even explain how ridiculous that is? Like, the challenges that head coaches face when they're pressured in coaching in a lame duck year. You're having a guy who's entering a new organization enter as a lame duck head coach. You know how crazy that and ridiculous that is? But the word was a lot of guys weren't really going to take the job because he was not offering real money. A lot of the broadcasters who have been broadcasting with the team for years and years and years, almost all of them were let go because none of those guys were going to be paid the salaries they had been getting paid, and he was going to cut the salaries for everybody. He wasn't re-signing anybody to any longer-term deals or bigger deals, or even the deals they already had. He essentially was asking everybody to take a massive pay cut. So the whole broadcast team is gone. This guy's been a freaking tyrant. And you would think all of that's been enough to be like, this guy sucks. And then I read this crap. So we know the Moda Center where the Portland Trailblazers play. It's one of the older arenas. Like, it used to be the Rose Garden. They've been playing there since I was a kid. That's the only arena I know them playing in. So it's an older arena. I've never been. So I can't speak to how good or bad it is, but older arena, you put two and two together. I'm sure it's not the best experience. So the team in the city have been kind of playing hardball when it comes to how they're going to go about coming up with a new stadium plan. And as we've seen so far, according to multiple reports, Tom Dundon and the Blazers organization has rejected an invitation to discuss the lease on the Moda Center. Discuss. Not sign a deal, not, oh, they gave me an offer, I rejected it. No, just, hey, can you show up to the city council or whatever and let's talk about what you want for this stadium? He don't even want to talk. Dundon is seeking apparently $575 million in public funding. There's been $375 million that's already been approved by the state for arena renovations. And there's a vote that's to be had on August 12th. Guy didn't even show up. And according to folks who report on the situation, or not reports, folks, I'm sorry, politicians and other politicians or whatever, but politicians are concerned. They're saying that they feel like this is potentially him slow walking his eventual move to get the team out of Portland. And that may have been his plan all along. So I will end up seeing how this goes. But I just find this despicable. I found this guy's existence in the NBA despicable. Like, he has not seemed to show any modicum of grace, any modicum of appreciation, any modicum of decorum. He seems to think he's a know-it-all. He seems to think that he has everything all figured out. To which I then also say, why the hell did Adam Silver bring this guy to the league? Like, Adam Silver and the rest of the NBA owners, because Adam Silver works for these owners, to be clear, you have a responsibility to protect all of your markets. And it looks like you brought a fox into a henhouse. You have a guy who doesn't know anything about the NBA, doesn't know anything about how the NBA works, doesn't seem to know anything about how the city of Portland works and how disrespectful he has been to the city. And he's only met them with antagonism and defensiveness with every stupid ass move he's done. And you have co-signed all this because you brought this clown in here. And I'm pissed off because, listen, I live in New York City. I never have a real risk to ever lose any of my teams. The Knicks are never leaving New York City. Technically, the Jets and Giants are already in Jersey. But you know what I mean. Like, they're not going to go to, they're not going to Omaha. I don't got to worry about my team traveling to moving to, Nashville or Kansas City. That's never going to be a situation I ever have to deal with because I live in a big market. That's not the case for Portland's of the world. That's not the case for these other teams of the world. That's why I got pissed off at LeBron James. And for those that were thinking I'm just doing it for LeBron, no, I'm keeping the same energy with everybody. I'm keeping the energy with all billionaires who think that they can look at small markets and just spit in their face. And for the NBA, who says you value small markets, and you're supposed to, you should. They help drive revenue. You can't have a league that only has big markets. That means swaths of the country aren't paying attention to your league. You need the Portlands of the world. You already lost Seattle. Are you allowing this guy to do this because Seattle's coming back? So you're saying, well, now we got the biggest market in the Great Northwest. Let's now get Portland out of here. Let's move on from those folks. Like, what's going on here? He can't go to Seattle. He can't go to Las Vegas. Where is he moving the team to? What is all this? What is this nonsense? Is it a shakedown for this already broke boy owner to get more money from the public, from the taxpayers, when he just showed up? When all he has shown that he is not willing to spend on the team in terms of when it comes to comfort, in terms of how they're traveling. He's not willing to spend on the team when it comes to camaraderie, when it comes to bringing guys on the road who are part of the team. He's not in terms of supporting the fans, in terms of giving them free merch when they make the playoffs. He's not in courage of putting the right kind of team in place because he's hiring a freaking lame duck coach because no one else, who was the only guy he probably could have hired because no one else was going to take a stupid-ass job where you got a one-year deal. Why is he here? It's a disgrace. Absolute disgrace. And I'm hot, I'm pissed off because, again, the people of Portland don't have the megaphones of other big markets and other big cities to speak about what this clown is doing every day. So all we have are the people who watch the league and just watch what's going on and care about this stuff. And I care about it. I'm not a Portland Trailblazers fan. I don't got no beef with them. I don't love them. I got no beef. But I'm not someone who follows the Blazers intimately. Every time I turn around, I see some stupid ass headline with this guy. You think this guy hiring coaches a one-year deal? You think that's gonna bring a sense of excellence to the Trailblazer organization? Are you kidding me? People who watch the team regularly now have to get used to an entirely new freaking broadcast team because the guy is too cheap and all he cares about is making a damn profit. You don't get into owning NBA teams to make a profit, bro. You do it because it's like a service to the city and for the status of it. You want to make a profit, get your stacks up and go own an NFL team. But for these broke boy owners who want to own MLB teams and own NBA teams and own NHL teams and then cut money, cut salary, and do this and that and slash everywhere because they're trying to find a way to get profit out of this, that's not what this is for. Unless you own the Lakers, unless you own the Yankees, unless you own the Knicks, unless you own the Celtics, unless you own some of these teams, you might be able to get a profit. The Red Sox, the Dodgers, you're not getting a profit owning the freaking Trailblazers, man. But it's cool. That's why you do it. It's cool. It's fun. It's usually other people's second jobs. Like, usually you're making money somewhere else. It's a status, and you can try to create something great. What's great about a coach on a lame duck contract? Nothing. What's great about shaking down a city that is beloved, that has loved their team for decades and decades and decades for public funds when you're supposed to have the money yourself? Nothing. This guy's one of the worst figures in pro sports right now. Tom Dundon. One of the freaking worst. And the NBA should be ashamed of themselves for letting this guy own a team. Seriously. There's a vetting process for this. Multiple people, you take bids. People bid, this is the guy that wants to own the team. You talk to him. What's your plan? How you want to improve the team? What is your goals? How are you going to do this? He told you he's going to do all this crap, and you let him into the NBA anyway? Are you complicit in this, Adam Silver? Complicit in this, the rest of the 29 NBA owners? This is a joke. Absolute joke. Last thing before we move on. So excited for Spider-Man Brand New Day. Reviews are out. It looks like this Spider-Man movie may be the one. I did see recently the Rotten Tomatoes score did drop just a little bit, but it ain't that much. It's still like, so the critic rating. It's right now it's at 90%, which is very high. It would be among the other Spider-Man movies. I think all of them are around 90. Some are hitting around 92, 93. It hit one point, it hit 89 today, but now it's back up to 90. It sounds like this movie's the one. Just the reporting I've seen people speaking about this feeling like maybe one of the best Peter Parker stories we've heard. A little surprising to me, only in the sense that like there's so many moving parts to this, like Punisher's in it, Hulk's in it, maybe Jean Grey is in it. So I think a lot of the question was how contained could the story be? How much of the story could be about? How much could the story be about Spider-Man when you're bringing in so many big figures in it? But I've heard a lot of praise for Tom Holland's acting. I'll tell you what, I've been doing a marathon. I guess it's not a marathon because I haven't been watching it consecutively. But I've watched a movie almost every day of trying to watch all the Spider-Man movies prior to me watching this, which I'm going to be able to see it tomorrow. I got to watch one more tonight. I got to do No Way Home tonight. I watched the first two over the weekend. But, like, Tom Holland, somehow he's underrated. Like, when we think about, like, the great superhero actors that we have, I don't know if it's because there's all these, like, we've had so many Spider-Man movies, and now there's, like, literally 3 generation of fans who will speak about who their Spider-Man is, and even the ones who, even though those movies stunk, people who really like Andrew Garfield, I think people who even disliked those Spider-Mans liked Andrew Garfield, at least thought he was pretty good. And of course, Tobey Maguire is iconic. It's almost like because of that, I don't know if Tom ever gets like the true love he really probably deserves. Maybe I'm like out of touch. Maybe I'm older. Maybe like younger fans. Maybe kids. Maybe they kind of look at Tom Holland as like their hero and their action hero, the equivalent of like Arnold Schwarzenegger or whatever, whoever you would say from the 80s and 90s or whatever. I just don't know that because I'm not that age. But this guy, he was awesome in the first 2 movies, and I'm sure, and I think the third one, in my opinion, was maybe his best performance. That's the one I'm about to watch tonight. Sounds like he was great in this one. A lot of credit's been given to Daniel Destin Cretton, who, we want to talk about, again, making lemons and turn them into lemonade. This guy was supposed to do Kang Dynasty, and we all saw what happened with that. That whole situation completely, utterly blew up, and it forced him to move elsewhere, and Kevin Feige offered them Spider-Man. And it sounds like he did an incredible job. I heard a lot of great things about the action, how this movie looks, just like visually is stunning. It's probably one of the best visually looking Spider-Mans, is what I've heard from the reviews I've seen. No spoilers, obviously. So I'm excited, man. The Hulk scene I heard is one of the best action sequences we've seen from a Spider-Man movie. And for me, being someone who, I won't go as far as say I rolled my eyes at Hulk being part of this movie, but I was kind of like, okay, let's see how this goes. It sounds like it was a great part of the movie. So I'm seeing it tomorrow. You follow me on social media, EJ_Stewart, Instagram, Action EJ, TikTok, Action EJ. I will almost certainly have something up. I don't know. And I also subscribe to the YouTube channel. Maybe I'll post a short on YouTube. Maybe I'll post something. But I'll post something to give my reaction to the movie. But it comes out on Thursday. That's the preview day, of course. And then full weekend Friday. Out in all theaters. I can't wait. It sounds like the box office is going to be insane. Apparently already internationally, I guess it's showing in some places. It's already crossed $200 million internationally. Another aspect of this that like has been stunning to me is just how crazy it sounds like this box office number is going to be. Partially because we've seen so much talk about superhero fatigue, and then with the superhero fatigue has also come all this talk about like, oh, another, like, it's Spider-Man. This is a movie where now we're seeing, let's see, this will be the 4th of this installment. We had 3 in the first installment, and then you add 2. So what, 9? This is the 9th Spider-Man movie at this point. Right? Yeah, 5 plus 4, 9. Yeah, 9 Spider-Man movies in what has been a pretty short amount of time. The first one was, I think, 02. So from 02 to 26, you had 9 Spider-Man movies. And you hear about, oh, superhero fatigue. It makes you think, well, how invested are people going to be in seeing Spider-Man at a time where the MCU is kind of at its lowest point? It's been for weeks now. People have been talking about how it looked like the projections for this movie were awesome. The word on the street in Hollywood was that this movie was it. And that Marvel and Sony were both extremely confident in it. Again, we've heard that before, and movies have been terrible, right? Flash was supposed to be this amazing movie, and that was hot garbage. But that was the word on the street in Hollywood, that this was the one. It was testing extremely well. The execs were really happy with it. I think Kevin Feige spoke about how happy he was with it. So I was like, okay, let's see. I had some questions about this movie as we were in the build-up to it. There's the obvious question about what's going to happen with Jean Grey's potential in it. I've not seen any spoilers, so I don't know. I heard Steve Lacy maybe spoil something. I don't know what he said, so don't look up Steve Lacy. But I've heard jokes that he spoiled something on the red carpet, and then basically Kevin Feige's going to have him in a Shield Black site by tomorrow, or maybe by today already. But I've heard Sadie Sink's role in it is awesome. I have not confirmed what that role is. I haven't seen what that role is, but I heard her role in it is awesome, and she's a great fixture in it, and she has a future in the MCU moving forward. So that's what I've seen. Can't wait, man. Can't wait. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm seeing it tomorrow. Again, make sure you follow me on social media. I will have some kind of reaction to the movie after I come out of the movie. So make sure you follow me everywhere. That's gonna do it for 40 Days and Counting, man. This was a fun one. I want to thank you guys so much for checking me out. Once again, make sure you follow me on social media. EJ_Stewart on X, where we're live. Ashton EJ, where we're also live. Make sure you follow us on me on Instagram. On TikTok as well, Ashton EJ. Make sure you follow me on Buzzer, EJ205 Prep, where we're live. And of course, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, New Generation Media, where this show is also live. Make sure you like this video. Let me know in the comment section what you thought about this episode. And remember, all episodes of 40 Days of Counting get podcasted. So make sure you check out the podcast if you're on the go, or if you're on the run, or if you can't watch. New Generation Podcast Network, where you'll find that. I'm EJ Stewart. See you guys later. See you next week, actually.